Okay, so we got our basic fetch working, but of course we can optimize our code a lot better than this. We got our array here in the browser. If we go down here, we want to click on the load comments and then actually load that comment. Now, it's it's a best practice, not one of the, but it's a best practice to actually wrap that fetch into an actual function, so that we can control when it's executed. Just placing it here means it's going to be loaded immediately when the page is loaded. Now we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to clear this mostly. As you can see, we will refactor it in a second. Function get data, nothing special, and we will place the fetch in there. Now, what are we going to do? We are going to catch the data and we're going to return the object that if I have this, for example, let data equals get data. This is clean code. If you see this, you know what is going to happen and you know the flow. This is a declaration of a function. This is a variable and I want to get the data from an external source. Good. Now only one problem. We don't know when this is getting back. So what are we going to do? We are going to wrap this function with an async keyword. So that means I can do this. We are going to let response, I'm going to write it in full so you know what it is, and we're going to fetch it. Now, we've seen the await keyword. We can only use await inside an asynchronous function. So now, when we execute get data, it's going to execute this, it's going to call the URL, it's going to wait for it, and then actually place the result of the promise in here. Now, keep in mind, if there are errors, this will contain an error. You can do some error checking here to see if the status code, if response.status equals 200, which means it's okay. Else we have an oopsie. So this is very basic error handling. Of course, in the promises, you can also use the catch, etc. But we will focus now on handling the response itself. Now, if the response is okay, of course, we need to convert it to a JSON before we returning it. So return await response.json. So again, this line again is just executing a function which will return a promise, actually the promise that contains the result after it's done, and we're going to wait for it. So return response.json, and we're going to wait for it until it's done. And this should then, hope it does, contain the data that we need. As you can see, there is no other console log besides the loaded, which I will now clean, the oopsie if we have an error, and of course the console log of the data. It's pending. Now, why would this be pending? It's because asynchronous gets the data immediately back as a promise. So it's still executing. It's not even returning this as well. We are console login even before the promise is done. So again, let's refactor this and now do it like it should. Then data, save, and we have our array. So now, not only have we simplified our function here, we don't have double then, we have clean code that we can easily adjust. If our URL changes, we have a specific function where we get our data. You can use config files in here, and we have a clean function that gets the data for execution and DOM manipulation. You can even use the await on the get data because it's a promise, but then you would need to create this whole function as an asynchronous function, which I do not recommend. So this is much cleaner. It's segmented out, the getting data and the DOM manipulation, which is here. And now we can easily do add data to DOM, for example. And that's even more cleaner, so we don't have to work into this function. Add data to DOM. And now we can do whatever we want. We can we can loop over it. We can create an element. I think I can just document.create, nope, .get element by ID. I think it's message or messages. It's message, and then I will do append child. I will do something very ugly. No, I'm going to inner text, and I will set that do, since this is a JSON object, I will do JSON stringify and just mash that data in there. Message is null. It's a class. Okay, as you can see, bam, we have all the data in here. So this is a very basic example on how to code your basic website with data from a different source.